one of our newest segments beside two reporters with Farhan, Lalji and Dave Naylor from Hamilton. Guys, the Montreal Alouettes, your 2023 Grey Cup champions. This is a team that didn't have an owner last February. Where would you rank the Alouettes in terms of unlikely Grey Cup champions?
I would put them very high, Jay. This was an 11-17 by the end of the year. But let's go back to February, Farhan. You and I were at the Super Bowl in Arizona, and on a daily basis, we were having conversations with Montreal general manager Danny Machocha, and he was worried. He didn't know who was going to own the team. He didn't know who was going to pay the bills. He didn't know if the league was coming in to take over. And he was worried about what was going to happen in free agency because players don't like uncertainty. And sure enough, February 14th, the league took over operations of the Montreal Alouettes. Free agency started. Whoop, his quarterback goes out the door. His number one receiver, Geno Lewis, goes out the door. I mean, when he hired Jason Moss in December, he said to him, I got to be honest with you, we got some uncertainty here. This may be a bumpy ride. Jason Moss said, hey, I'm ready for it. I'm bracing it. We can see this through. Back then in February, I think we know why everybody thought the Alouettes might have a very forgettable year. It turns into one of the most memorable years in Alouettes history instead.
Yeah, and you've got to give Danny Machocha credit for how he salvaged such a difficult situation. He talked to me about Pierre-Karl Pelado and the fact that he brought peace to Danny and to the organization. Danny didn't know if he wanted to continue to do this, given what he had been dealing with under previous ownership and all the uncertainty. Dave mentioned the quarterback, Trevor Harris. He had a contract in principle agreed to with Trevor, and then all of a sudden this uncertainty happens. Trevor says, I got to go and take what's good over there in Saskatchewan. Meanwhile, you've got the quarterback, Cody Fajardo, who has been discarded from Saskatchewan. The only one who believes in him is Jason Moss, who also kind of had to be a bit of a scapegoat in Saskatchewan because things went so poorly there. They had to blame somebody, so they get rid of him. Those two men wind up, you give them chicken salad or you give them chicken whatever, and they created chicken salad out of it. It turned out unbelievably well. And, understand, Cody gets a lot of criticism, and people believe that there's a lot of limitations to his game, but today on the biggest stage when it mattered the most, he actually had to push the ball down the field on that final drive of the game, threw an absolute dart to Tyson Philpott on the post for the game-winning touchdown. And you might be critical of Cody as a player, but I think you'll be hard-pressed to find anybody in this league who dislikes the guy. I think there's a lot of people happy for Cody Fajardo tonight.
I think you're absolutely right, Farhan. On the flip side, though, the Blue Bombers now 2 for 4 in the last 4 Grey Cup games. Does this loss change the legacy of this team? Can we still put them in that dynasty conversation?
I think we can, Jay, but I'm going to put them in the West Division Dynasty category. I don't think you can put them in the CFL. I made it up on the fly tonight. Look, let's be honest. You get to 4 straight Grey Cups out of the West Division. That's an accomplishment. No team had done that since the Edmonton team of the late 70s and 1980s. And look, in today's era of free agency, it's a lot different than it was back in those days. I mean, CFL players can become free agents in a year or 2 or 3 at most. They've kept this roster stable. They got players to commit to not take bigger salaries in other places, to commit to what they believed in under Mike O'Shea. You've had the same head coach. You've had the same GM. You've had the same assistant GMs, and you essentially had the same coaching staff. So you put all that together, look, and they're 2 for 4, but the 2 they lost the one last year on a blocked field goal. They lost the one tonight on a fantastic drive by Cody Fajardo on the Montreal offense in the dying minutes of the fourth quarter. They have played very, very solid, consistent football. I think in time, this era will be very kind to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, despite going 2 and 4 in Grey Cups.
Look, they almost went 1 and 3 because you go back to 2 years ago here on this field, just on the other side, there's a drop pass at the goal line, which sends the game into overtime, and they could be 1 and 3, right? Like it could have looked very different. Now, look, you can't be critical of Mike O'Shea and the culture that he's been built there. Their record has been outstanding, but this is a difficult thing to execute, and they're going to find that what they've done, as hard as it's been, it's going to get even harder right now because is Kyle Walters going to be back as a general manager? You're going to wind up with Brady Oliveira. He's going to want to get paid. That money's got to come from somewhere. You've got Dalton Schoen, who, was injured and wasn't necessarily effective tonight, but he's been an elite receiver in this league for 2 years.
On a rookie contract.
On a rookie contract. He's going to want to get paid. So it's not going to be easy for them to continue to have this level of success. It's not about the guys getting too old. It's about the guys out earning or outperforming what they're earning to this point.
Guys, just 364 days until next year's Grey Cup at BC Place. All the after parties at Farhan's house. This has been Beside 2.